Lack of quorum at LegCo debate on the budget. Another day of testimony by the CE in Wong Yuk-man assault trial. And U.S. policy in the Middle East under fresh scrutiny.
Hello and a very good evening. A Legislative Council meeting discussing the budget ended today because of a lack of quorum by one person. And that's triggered a blame game between the pro-establishment and pan-democratic lawmakers. Winner Wong has our top story tonight.
要求點算法定人數
10 seconds remaining in the 15-minute quorum call, and not enough lawmakers present would put today's meeting to rest. Inside the chamber were 31 pro-establishment lawmakers. On the pan-democratic side, Sid Ho, Alan Leung, and Sin Chung Kai. Meanwhile, outside the chamber, Frederick Fung was speaking on his mobile phone. Fung explained later that he had been doing a phone interview with a reporter. He said he had stood close to the door in case he needed to get inside quickly, but did not realize the quorum call was coming to an end.
I think when I just go into the chamber, I think less than a second, the secure put a stop to stop me to go into it. So I'm very sorry about that. I don't think it. I want to see the meeting being stopped by less than one members as a quorum.
Sin defended his Democratic Party colleagues. He said there are many aspects to a lawmaker's job, and his fellow party members had been busy doing interviews or making site visits. The Democratic Party has already voiced support for the appropriation bill, and Sin said his fellow colleagues had shown that by voting in favor of its second reading earlier. Sin stressed the party should not be held solely responsible for today's lack of quorum. But he did slam LegCo President Tsang Yok-sing, who has declared a deadline of May 11th for a vote on the appropriation bill, regardless of how things are doing.
Because of the way he ruled, the progress of the meetings seem to be irrelevant, because whatever you say, whatever you speak, or in the council, won't materials. The only thing you need to do is to vote on 11th of May, and that creates a huge problem. And that will create a precedent for future cases.
But Andrew Leung of the Business and Professionals Alliance backs Tsang's decision.
The president's decision is final, and it's not debatable or cannot, very difficult to get, reword that. I think the LegCo business is a very serious business.
Last month, LegCo had already approved $90.4 billion in provisional funding to spend on public expenditure until lawmakers pass the real budget. That's expected to last until the end of May. Financial Secretary John Tsang waded in, saying he believes people in Hong Kong are disappointed with today's outcome. Winner Wong, TVB News.
Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying has testified in court again in the common assault trial of legislator Wong Yuk-man. Wong accused the CE of using the case as revenge against him as an opposition lawmaker. Leung denied the claim. As both his supporters and critics once again made their presence felt, the CE arrived at the Eastern Magistracy this morning. Defendant Wong Yuk-man, who has pleaded not guilty to common assault, continued to defend himself. He's accused of throwing a water glass at Leung Chun-ying during a 2014 LegCo question and answer session. Wong began by requesting to postpone the trial, saying the prosecution has not yet presented him with all the information to be used in court. This includes notes taken by the 4 police officers who recorded the CE statement. But the prosecution argued that adequate information had been provided and asked Wong to state exactly what he needed. The prosecution also said they tried calling Wong to discuss the issue of evidence, but had not heard from him. Magistrate Chu Chung-keung ruled that the trial would continue. In questioning the CE, Wong asked if it's true that he did not see who threw the glass. Leung confirmed that he did not. Wang asserted that the CE did not actually see or hear anything, but was taking revenge for Wang's constant opposition. Leung disagreed. He said Wang was not the only one opposing him. The CE also said he never mentioned Wang Yukman's name in his police statement, and it was the police and court's decision to go ahead with the case. He said he only found out Wang had been prosecuted after police took action. He added he did not know the details of or care about the process in between, but that the person who attacked him should be punished by the law. The case continues with the CE back in court for more questioning tomorrow.
President Xi Jinping has assumed a more direct role as head of the armed forces, with the new title of Commander-in-Chief of its Joint Battle Command Center. Analysts say that's boosting his status as China's most powerful leader in decades. Xi is also head of the Communist Party and chairman of the Central Military Commission. During a visit to the center, Xi called for building a joint battle command system with Chinese characteristics. He said improving the center is a significant part of deepening the reform on national defense and military, as well as a key measure to strengthen strategic command. In Taiwan, 18 telecoms fraud suspects deported from Malaysia earlier are now in custody. 2 others are under effective house arrest with their movements limited. The 20 suspects were released by Taiwanese authorities because of a lack of evidence when they arrived in Taiwan from Malaysia last week. They were returned to the island despite Beijing's request that they be sent to the mainland instead. But now, in an about-face, authorities took 18 of them into custody in Taichung today. They're accused of committing serious crime. The dispute over jurisdiction in this and a similar case involving Taiwanese fraud suspects in Kenya has threatened to undermine cross-strait ties.
Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe made a personal offering to a controversial war shrine today to mark a spring festival, again annoying Beijing. The Yasukuni Shrine honors Japan's wartime leaders, some convicted of war crimes. Visits to the shrine by political leaders are routinely criticized by China and South Korea, which bore the brunt of Japan's wartime militarist regime. Abe did not visit the shrine personally, reportedly because of the slowly recovering ties with Japan's neighbors. Still, Beijing criticized the move. The Chinese Foreign Ministry called on Japan to deeply reflect on its history of aggression. This comes as Japan's foreign minister prepares to visit Beijing later this month.
In the Middle East, U.S. President Barack Obama met with top officials from 6 Arab nations to discuss security issues in the Persian Gulf, including the fight against the Islamic State militant group. The meetings reflect an effort by the White House to reassure important but wary allies, which have serious doubts about Obama's outreach to Iran and U.S. policy towards Syria.
U.S. President Barack Obama is in Saudi Arabia on his 4th and probably his last visit to the kingdom as America's leader. In a private meeting with Saudi King Salman yesterday, Obama reportedly discussed human rights issues with the monarch. Activists have urged Obama to push Saudi Arabia over its human rights record and questioned its actions in the ongoing civil war in Yemen, which many see as a proxy conflict between Riyadh and Tehran. Others, especially lawmakers in the United States, urged the president to demand greater transparency from Riyadh about possible links to the 9/11 terror attacks of 2001. But Obama had to tread carefully, given Saudi Arabia's strategic importance and Riyadh's displeasure at the recent deal to end sanctions against Iran following a landmark nuclear deal. He also met with top officials from the Gulf Cooperation Council to discuss regional security issues, including the fight against the Islamic State militant group and the Syrian civil war. The White House says the summit meeting included 3 sessions, one to foster regional stability, another to focus on counter-terrorism, including efforts against al-Qaeda and Islamic State in Iraq and Syria. A 3rd session focused on Iran, which Saudi Arabia and other Gulf states see as a destabilizing rival. U.S. Defense Secretary Ashton Carter, who's also in the region, was quick to reassure the Saudis and other Gulf states that Washington is keeping an eye on Iran.
In our posture, our preparedness, our planning, and our partnership, the U.S. military remains committed and capable of responding to Iranian malign and destabilizing activities.
Carter added that Iran's support of Hezbollah was an example of the malign activities that was addressed between the U.S. and GCC.
A court in Norway has ruled that a mass killer's human rights were violated as he was being held in solitary confinement. The court ruled that confining Anders Behring Breivik in a 3-cell complex where he could play video games, watch TV and exercise amounted to inhumane treatment. Alan Bugnier has more.
77 people were killed in a bomb and gun massacre carried out by Breivik in July 2011. At the time, he claimed to be the commander of a secret Christian military order plotting an anti-Muslim revolution. Breivik's complaints were heard by a district court last month in the prison grounds where he's been held in isolation since the 2011 attacks. He sued the government, saying his isolation from other prisoners, frequent strip searches, and handcuffing violated his human rights. The 4-day hearing raised dismay and some laughter among Norwegians, taken aback by his complaints of being given plastic dinner utensils, cold coffee, and microwaved food he described as worse than waterboarding. But in a surprise decision, the court ruled his isolation is in breach of the European Convention on Human Rights. The court said it couldn't see why he can't be allowed to meet other inmates in the high security section under the supervision of prison guards. It ruled Breivik has behaved in a peaceful and courteous manner, despite a 2013 letter in which he wrote he knew how to neutralize prison guards and how to make 10 to 15 deadly weapons from materials in his cells. Government lawyer Marius Emberland expressed surprise at the verdict, saying they kept Breivik separated from other inmates for safety reasons. He said they're studying the possibility of an appeal. The court did reject Breivik's claim to the right to have contact with other right-wing extremists. He now describes himself as a neo-Nazi who prays to the Viking god Odin. Alan Bukniat, TVB News.
A powerful explosion ripped through a petrochemical plant on the southern coast of Mexico yesterday, killing 3 people and injuring more than 100 others. The blast sent a huge toxin-filled cloud into the air. The plant produces vinyl chloride, a hazardous industrial chemical used to make PVC pipes and other materials. People were warned to stay away while the fire raged. State oil company Pemex said 58 workers were among the injured. Some are in grave condition after suffering burns to their air passages from the toxic gases. The cause of the blast is unclear. Pemex has experienced a series of high-profile accidents in recent years.
And still ahead in the news tonight. Efforts to reduce the risk of a stroke. More opposition to Ladies' Night court ruling. And say happy birthday to Queen Elizabeth.